Welcome to all, and thank you very much for tuning in to this second public hearing to discuss the development of the action plan for the optimization of the electrical grid of Puerto Rico, financed with funds, CDBG-DR funds. My name is Maricarmen Figueroa, and I will be your moderator during this second public hearing. Counting with a system of a power system is a basic need and a fundamental right to enjoy of the good life quality which all of us wish for. That is why it is a very important topic for the government as for all Puerto Ricans. We invite you to take advantage of this forum and to participate in the discussion process that we will begin now. Before beginning, we would like to introduce a panel that will be in charge of receiving your comments as well as answering the questions that we will receive during the following hour. The limitation of time avoids us to answer all of the questions live, but it is important to note that all of the questions will be answered and published later on the CDBG-DR Funds website along with your comments. First of all, we welcome the Secretary of the Housing Department, William Rodriguez Rodriguez. Good evening. We also have the Subsecretary of the recovery, disaster recovery of the Department of Housing, Marin Sanchez. Hello, good afternoon. And the Auxiliary Secretary of the Housing Department and Director of the Infrastructure Program, Shirley Birria Osorio. Good afternoon. Hello. Thank you very much, Mari Carmen, and thank you for all of you who are tuning in through our Facebook Live on the CDBG-DR Puerto Rico page, the YouTube channel, and 91.3 FM radio signal. This second public hearing is being celebrated to give you the opportunity, our people, to be part of the development of the action plan for the optimization of the electrical power system of Puerto Rico. We would like to know what are your concerns and suggestions. As Maretzi will explain to you, to achieve our goal, we have a fun and historical fund assignment. Yeah, it's $1.9 billion at the Housing and Urban Development, known as HUD, gave Puerto Rico after Hurricanes Maria, Irma Maria. So these funds will be used to strengthen our power system, converting into one that is resilient and resistant to future climate events, efficient and reliable, as well as economically viable for the long term. The Housing Department would like to foster the citizen participation in a transparent way. So we invite you to participate, sending in your comments or questions through the media that will be on the screen throughout the hearing. But also, I mentioned them for the benefit of those who are hearing us through the 91.3 FM radio signal. You can send also an email to info@cdbg@vivienda.pr.gov. Call to the telephone number 1-833-234-CDBG or the type phone with hearing disabilities 787-522-5950. And you can also visit the website www.cdbg-dr.pr.gov and send your comments through the participation form of this public hearing that you will find at the beginning of the page. Thank you, Maretzi. And now we have Engineer Shirley Birria, who will be sharing with us participation that elaborates on the advancing of the plan action for the optimization of the electrical power system of Puerto Rico. Remember to send your questions and comments through the methods that will be on screen. Thank you very much, Mari Carmen. Good afternoon to all the people who are tuning in. We are thankful and grateful for being able to share with you to talk about the most relevant parts of the action plan for the optimization of the electrical grid of Puerto Rico and to listen to your recommendations to improve the electrical system. This public hearing was convocated with the purpose of compiling your recommendations and comments about the action plan for energy. So the plan is available on the website of on CDBG-DR of the housing development for the period of public comment, which will culminate this following December 23rd of this year. As part of our agenda, the housing department will be presenting you a brief background about the impact of Hurricanes Irma and Maria to the electrical grid of Puerto Rico and the critical infrastructure such as the hospitals, telecommunication towers, schools, among others. In such manner, we will also be explaining the roles and the responsibilities of housing as an administrator of the CDBG-DR funds. We will present to you a summary of the key points of the federal requirements, as well as a summary of the needs that haven't been satisfied, budgeting, and programs that are in the action plan. Lastly, we will be indicating you the following relevant dates for the development of the action plan of energy, and also how to participate in the public comment period. A summary of the impacts. So, 40 years ago, Puerto Rico faced the impact of two hurricanes that left our island devastated. On September 6, 2017, Hurricane Irma went through 60 miles of the northeast of Puerto Rico as a Category 5 hurricane with winds of up to 100 miles per hour. The natural disaster caused great damage to the northwestern municipalities. Nonetheless, in less than 2 weeks, Hurricane Maria touched base or ground on the island, entering through the municipality of Yabucoa on 20 September, causing greater unforeseen damages. The winds of 110 miles per hour of the Category 4 hurricane devastated the Puerto Rico infrastructure, including the electric grid, which was an object of unforeseen destruction. Due to the hurricanes, today, we continue with the interruptions, the frequent disruptions, and which are also unpredictable in the power service. On the other hand, the cost of electricity continue to increase, and the power fluctuations have been more common. The hurricanes had a devastating impact on the electrical power system and provoked the largest blackout, the longest blackout in the modern history of the U.S. The restoration of the electrical system lasted more than 10 months before it could be achieved the complete restoration of the services to all the clients. Almost all the transmission lines of half of the east of Puerto Rico suffered severe damage, while the distribution lines were an object of unforeseen devastation. In such way, the impact on the electrical grid caused damaging effects to the communities, water system, health system, education system, telecommunications, among others. In the communities, the residents face difficulties to be able to realize their daily activities like cooking or washing clothes was almost impossible for the families of low income, including those that had an emergency generator to supply their home with energy. The dependency of the generators creates a risk to the environment, as well as the way it affects the health of the community members. And, of course, it takes a costly toll on the maintenance costs. On another part, the constant power failure risks the life of the patients with home medical attention, which some depend on certain medical equipments like ventilators for their therapy. And the failure of the electrical power system also caused a wave of adverse effects on public health. And these effects that are critical were reflected on the services of health and water. In the hospitals and clinics, many of the various generation backup generation system caused difficulties, making it difficult to keep up with the operation of the buildings and to be able to operate the machinery to save lives like nebulizer and dialysis machines, or to keep the essential medications refrigerated. The supply of water to the communities, hospitals, small businesses, among others, was also being affected by the lack of energy, leaving various families and employees without the most essential resource to live. Because of the hurricanes, damages were reported on 70% of the treatment plants of um, water and supply system. 220 of the 714 uh, pumping stations were affected. In terms of the sewage systems, 51 treatment plants were closed. In the education system, negative consequences were produced. Instability of the electrical the power relates directly with the society stress and the loss of hours of classes. And the recent interruptions in the system because of the power fluctuations, the parents were called by the school administration to pick their children up from school who were expecting them in classrooms with lots of heat. Lastly, the lack of communication delayed the processes, the recuperation processes, and caused a lot of anxiety in the population since they didn't have a way to communicate with their family members or authorities in case of emergency. To operate the communication systems, it is of the utmost importance to have a reliable power grid to be able to keep communication with the citizens. The roles and responsibilities of the housing department. In the year 2018, the government of Puerto Rico designated the housing department as the responsible agency to manage the CDBG-DR program funds. Among its responsibilities, we highlight development of an optimization plan to optimize the power grid, to supervise the CDBG-DR funds, to ensure the fulfillment of the program with the guidelines and federal legislation, to develop a citizen participation plan, coordinate relevant energy affairs with a technical coordination team of energy, and this team is composed by various federal and agencies such as the Energy Department, Housing and Urban Development Department, HUD, the Federal Agency for Emergency Management, better known as FEMA, the Agricultural Department, among others. Currently, housing is responsible for managing the various recovery funds, such as CDBG-DR, CDBG mitigation, and CDBG-DR for the optimization of the electrical power system. In the CDBG-DR and CDBG mitigation, there are programs that exist that offer assistance at the individual and community level. Through these programs, the applicants could receive solar panels to cover their energetic needs. Some of these programs are the following: the revitalization of the city revitalization program, the public installation program for water supply and energy. Nonetheless, the funds, the CDBG-DR funds for the electrical system enhancements, are to serve at a community level in which each project must impact the communities with most need in the island, and this includes the remote communities, vulnerable populations, low income communities, low income and medium income communities, and even the critical installations such as hospitals and health clinics, all with the purpose of providing an electric power system that is reliable and resilient. The Federal Registry authorization requires some full requirements that Vivienda or housing must fulfill to receive these funds of energy. On June 22nd, 2021, HUD published the uh, the Federal Registry, say one, assigning approximately $1.9 billion for the improvement on the power system of Puerto Rico. Housing must develop an action plan where the determination of the needs that haven't been fulfilled must be uh, fulfilled. And other programs in Puerto Rico and establish the steps to follow so that the funds can materialize in projects focused on the requirements of the program. In such way, housing must certify oversight for the management of the funds and to create an implementation plan to establish how will each program will be implemented.
According to the Spanish version of the warning for the Federal Registry, HUD defines an energy system as a joint and autonomous joint effort that is interconnected for transmission, distribution lines, substations, energy generation centrals, and other sources, distributed energy systems or technologies and support systems, such as the traditional definition for the industry, and accounting and the improvement of the cybersecurity, also system of transference and gas distribution, which are necessary for the offering of the electrical system that is resilient, reliable, and at a good cost. Given the case that many of the components are super could have the same meaning or work together, have the same meaning, housing has defined the different components in functional levels. These functional groups proposed are the following: transmission and distribution, substations, generation of central energy, other sources of energy, distributed energy and microgrids, and rehabilitating energy. The action plan must comply with the national objectives as stated by HUD. The funds CDBG-DR can be used only to benefit the population, low-income communities, and moderate communities, and to address an urgent need. At least 70% of the granting of these funds must be used for activities that benefit low income and moderate income groups and comply with the following criteria. Provide to the residents for low income and moderate income at least 51% of a subsidized rate for electricity under the one that is charged to other clients, residential clients, or a electricity rate that is lower than the one charged before the implementation of the entire subvention by CDBG-DR for the improvement of the electric system. Another way to comply with the national objectives is to improve in a measurable way the reliability of the energy system in areas where most of the residents are low-income individuals or moderate-income individuals or families. As part of the requirements by HUD, it is important to underline that the recipients will be responsible for the operation cost and maintenance cost, the improvement of the electrical grid performed with the CDBG-DR. They will be required to describe in their plan how they will guarantee the operation and the maintenance in the long term of the improvements that will be made to the electric grid financed by these funds. The subrecipients chosen by housing must specify the sources of financing not related to CDBG funds that will be used for the operation and maintenance of these improved areas. Also, the subrecipients chosen will be responsible for the cost, operation costs, and maintenance for the improvement of the energy system performed with the CDBG-DR funds. To compile information about the needs that have not been satisfied, the housing department, performed different roundtables in the in different meetings and also online meetings with different universities, with nonprofit organizations, municipalities, government agencies, among other groups and stakeholders. We had 4 roundtables with 13 entities that participated to restore the energy, such as Amanecer 2025, We Want Queremos Sol, the Engineer Institute, EPR Mayagüez, among others. Also, we held 2 online meetings with the municipalities and one with the Committee for Citizens on Consultation. And we also sent a survey to different organizations among the different stakeholders to understand their energetic needs. In this next session, we'll be discussing the different key points of the action plan. The action plan for the optimization of the electric grid is a document that assesses the unsatisfied needs and establishes the programs to assist in the recovery and restoration of the electric grid. In the plan, we describe the impact of the different hurricanes in the electric grid, the requirements for the programs, the activities that are eligible, and the methods to participate for the citizens. It also included a summary of the different reports used to assess the unsatisfied needs of the different sectors in Puerto Rico. Some of the reports that were included were the infrastructure 10 years infrastructure plan for for PREPA, the fiscal plan for PREPA for 2021, analysis of microgrid locations benefiting community resilience for Puerto Rico, which was performed by the National Lab Sandia, scholar reports from Puerto Rico, among others. Each study helps to identify resilience opportunities to strengthen the electric grid in the long term for the benefit of the citizens. An assessment of the needs that have not been satisfied. The unsatisfied needs are those that have not been covered with benefits from insurance and others kind of assistance, federal assistance, or any other finance source. When there is a need that other funds have not covered to complete a project, it creates an unsatisfied need for a community or an entity. Housing evaluated different unsatisfied needs during the development of the plan and met with different stakeholders, including community groups and agencies such as PRASA, DDEC, PREPA, among others. There are resilience needs for PREPA that have not been financed in its totality under the strategy of accelerated obligation by FEMA. On the other hand, in the 10 years infrastructure plan for PREPA, published in June 2021, it also included an estimate of 10,500 millions in funds to repair or replace the electric grid with the public assistance program 428 from FEMA. The project also includes in the plan, in 10 years infrastructure plan for PREPA, include funds from the mitigation project, FEMA 428 and 404, and also the CDBG-DR, and also maintenance expenses that are necessary, and NME for PREPA. PREPA indicated that they will a 10% for CDBG funds to cover the shared expenses. A great amount of the damage caused by the hurricane are documented in the allocation for the PREPA project for the island-wide fast under PREPA for approximately 10.5 billions or have been identified in the 10 years infrastructure plan. In total, in brief, the gap not covered by FEMA so far is approximately $1 billion. Housing categorized the different projects, the different PRASA projects for energetic needs in two main areas: filtration, water filtration plants and pump plants, and use treatment plants, and water discharge. For the authority to supply their clients, it is important to have generators, the backup generators, and include a hybrid alternative for energy sources with renewable energy and generators. This alternative will help to reduce the carbon trace and will include the resilience of the system. PRASA estimates a cost of 93 millions to provide generators, the backup generators for the main installations, the water installations in Puerto Rico. The unsatisfied needs not related to PRASA include the drinkable water administered by communities in which the authority does not provide water services. Currently, 206 of the 240 systems that do not belong to PRASA still need energy systems, alternative energy systems. These needs have not been satisfied. They could be satisfied through renewable projects to reduce the carbon footprint and serve the low and moderate income communities. The map presented on the screen represents the systems that are not related to PRASA, that include a solar system, a photovoltaic system, against those that have a distribution system, energy distribution system. Currently, there are a total of 206 systems all related to PRASA without a photovoltaic solar system, and there are only 37 systems that do have this alternative, whereas one of these is under development in the region in the eastern part of Puerto Rico. The residents from the municipalities in the central chain of mountain chain in Puerto Rico, like Comarillo and Orocovis, and the southeastern coast, like Humacao and Aguabo, they took longer to recover their electric system, whereas 80% of the island had already recovered the electric grid in 5 months. Those municipalities that were located in mountain areas did not have a stable system for long. It took longer for them to receive the services. That's why the real system need viable remote alternatives to be able to live without the main supply during a long period. The interruption of the electric system caused that hospitals and health clinics stop their services during the disaster. This caused that there were delays in medical procedures or essential evaluations for patients. Also, the lack of electricity caused that hospitals closed their installations, their facilities, having to transfer the patients to another institution or send them home without receiving the medical attention. To avoid this situation, once again, it is essential to provide these institutions alternatives to produce electric energy. Likewise, other facilities like the telecommunication towers, schools, airports, banks, among others, must also have an alternate system to guarantee the continuation of their services and operations. Hence, we can promote, foster the economic development, assure the education of our children and youngsters in an adequate environment, and continue communication to respond immediately to emergency situations. In the housing department, we are committed to help the different entities to prepare for the next generation for renewable energy to achieve to implement renewable energy strategies. We have to learn about the microgrids as an alternative to have an independent system from the main grid and integration of the different vehicles in Puerto Rico. In the microgrid initiative by the Department of Energy of the United States, the microgrid are defined as a charge group and energetic resources distributed within electric limits very clearly defined that work independently and that can be controlled within the electric grid. A microgrid can be connected and disconnected from the main grid to allow that it works while it is connected or when it is disconnected. The Federal Agency for the International Development, a microgrid, is a system that includes the generation of electricity at the small scale, and the microgrid it's a smaller grid and it generates smaller capacity of electricity. This definition helps us identify different projects for the communities that are needed the most. In Puerto Rico, the Department of Economic Development and Commerce, also known as DDEC, is the entity responsible for implementing the public policy, the energetic public policy. This program administers and operates different programs, federal programs, among some of it, environmental adaptation program. It is state energy program, SEP, and also the state fund for green energy. Given its function to provide energy and introduce renewable energy to the electric grid in Puerto Rico, the DDEC will help to promote integration of the different electric vehicles to reduce the carbon footprint and the importing of gasoline, and also as part of the strategic planning, and also education on different programs for community participation. In this session, we're going to be talking about the budget and the programs, energy programs proposed in the draft in the action plan. The following table is a summary of the budget for the action plan. As you can see on the screen, the same is divided among the different programs that are established in the plan. The cost distribution plan for recovery and reconstruction of the electric grid, R1, it has a total of 1.15 billions, whereas the reliability and resilience in energy, R2, has an amount of 760 millions. It represents 94% of the budget. On the other hand, the administrative budget is approximately $96 million, which represents 5% of the total budget. Last, the planning budget is a total of 19 million, which represents 1% of the budget. The total budget is $1.9 billion. Our first energy program is known as cost distribution for the recovery and reconstruction of the electric grid, that has as a purpose to maximize the benefit of the sponsoring programs, federal sponsoring programs, by positioning CDBG-DR program as a ideal program to local matching funds for other federal sources. This strategy will alleviate the financial burden for the recovery of the electric grid and the needs for resilience in the long term.
The program counts with a budget of 1.55 $1,558.1 billion. So to distribute these funds, the model distribution of its recipient is used as it is necessary for specific projects. So housing will work with alongside Core 3 and other government agencies and applicants, which are the recipients of FEMA programs, to give the federal matching, and housing will cooperate with that agency or with the Puerto Rico agency that will manage the federal grant funds, and with its corresponding uh, requirement people who are applying to match with FEMA. So this program will implement the matching strategy, which looks to make the cost process swiftly for specific projects, and the CDBG-DR program will cover 100% of the cost of the projects specifically selected by housing, and also the flexible batching program will be aligned to achieve to get to meet the new renewable energy objectives. The RE1 program allows for the maximization of the use of the federal funds granted by other federal agencies through the matching of such funds. Same way, this avoids an additional burden of the government debt of $1.55 billion, which with the added benefit of not making it into an additional debt. Also, this will foster the electrical system, which will allow for greater integration of future renewable energy programs and future technologies. And the second program, designed by housing, it is known as the Program for the Viability and the Resiliency of the Power Program, your RE2. And the main purpose of this program is to provide assistance to its recipients to create the viability and resiliency of the power system. And the program will address the needs of the communities to by giving funds for projects that currently are not anticipated that they will receive funds from other local or federal networks. It will also be granted to the program a total of 760,595,149 of the budget. So the method for distribution that will be used is the model of distribution, well, based on its recipient or the direct reception model, and there will be a minimum of $10 million of a grant that will be given, and a maximum grant that will be evaluated according to the project cost. So the funds will be located through the activity and the physical needs of the electrical system needs, such as the co-generation, microgrid of large projects, microgrids of small projects, and generation. This program seeks to look for the unfulfilled needs of the vulnerable community through a centralized administration. The program will be evaluating whether the projects will ensure the distribution, generation, and storage of energy, and go hand in hand with the technical uh, set bylaws established by the law. And this will guarantee the government to generate the mechanisms for the maintenance and the cost of in such way. The program will also foster education mechanisms so that the members of the communities can become trained technically to know how the operation and maintenance of the systems work and the benefits of such systems. As part of the priorities of the RE2 program, various processes to assess the viability of a project are included. We include in the threshold to ensure that there is no duplicity of benefits These funds are for uses that satisfy or fulfill the needs of the power system, which will probability will not be addressed by FEMA or which other funding sources. And to prove that they are applying the standards of construction and resiliency, the construction of projects must achieve the standards of resiliency, efficiency, and sustainability as defined by the construction codes of Puerto Rico, the MERC, and the National Association of Deputies of Regulators of Public Services, and the 2020 Electrical Network. These technicians must also demonstrate the financial independence in which the funds are not CDBG for the operation and maintenance on the long term, including the management of the vegetation as it is required, and to certify controls to guarantee that the cost of the improvements are reasonable. Other parties of the program are described in the criteria to be considered for eligibility. In the first place, the project must help on the viability of the system to reduce the effect of the number of days without power and or the documented decrease in the interruptions of electric service power service. On the second place, it must assist in the best way to resiliency of the system, which effect has been projected in the total number that has been accumulated of client hours with no power service. Clause PROLES after the event. In such way, the project must provide a service that is directed towards a vulnerable population, the communications that have been neglected, and the low and medium income communities. And they must also demonstrate a scale of benefits to the community that are linked to the electrification, such as economic, for example, the effects in the economic activity, public health, for example, connection to the power connection and water as well. And lastly, to provide services to critical installation. An example that we could mention, the hospitals or a center for the elderly. The status of the CDBG-DR energy on November 8th, the public comment period started with the publishing of the action plan to give the opportunity to the citizens to evaluate the draft and provide their recommendations and comments to housing through different participation methods. Today, December the 8th, we are celebrating the second public hearing to hear your suggestions and to answer your question about the action plan. The public period comment will culminate on the current year on December 23rd. And on January 24, 2022, Housing will present HUD an action plan alongside the public comment. And from that date on, the 60-day period for the HUD revision will begin on March 25, 2022. The HUD revision period will finish. And if it is approved, it'll be published on the CDBG-DR website. If not, Housing will address the HUD comments to be able to receive the final approval. And to finish, we're going to discuss with the citizen participation another of the requirements required by HUD so that all the stakeholders can offer their opinions and propose proposals. As it was mentioned previously, the draft of the action plan, the energy action plan, is available in the CDBG-DR housing website for the public comment period. We invite all the citizens, government and private entities, interest groups, education institutions, and nonprofit organizations to submit their comments on or before December 23 of the current year, to send your recommendations, you can use the following methods via telephone to 1-833-2324 CDBG or 1-833-2324-2324 or to the phone with teletype for those the hearing impaired 787-522-5950 through the website, through the email info cdbg at vivienda.pr.gov or written on the program at CDBR Puerto Rico, PO Box 05, San Juan, Puerto Rico 00928. Through the following link, CDBG dr.pr.gov, you can access the first energy action plan under the CDB-DR access of the optimization of the Puerto Rico power grid. On the website, you will also find a section titled Citizen Participation, where you will be able to click on the button to submit your comments. We will infinitely thank you for having been with us this afternoon to know more about the Energy Action Plan, how it will be able to benefit the communities of our island and to restore our electric grid system in a resilient way. Now we will share with you some of the comments and questions that we have received during this hearing. For those people who were not tuning in from the beginning of the hearing and are interested in participating, you can call 1-833-2324-CDBG or 1-833-234-2324 or the phone for hotel type for the hearing. This is hard of hearing 787-522-5950 or sending an email to info.cdbg at vivienda.pr.gov to answer your questions and comments. We thank Shirley for being able to share with us such valuable information. And thank you very much to all who are tuning in and to all who have sent your questions and comments. We've fostered all of us watching through Facebook Live or through the 91.3 FM's radio signal to send your questions and answers using the participation methods shown on the screen. Since we are celebrating the public hearings in a virtual way to maintain the security and safety of the citizenship, we have offered the method of video statements, and this video offers an opportunity of an active public participation for entities that wish to express themselves and comment about the CDBG-DR funds for the optimization of the electric grid and that your voice is heard during the hearing. We will thank the organizations, the entities, and municipalities who submitted their video statements and your written statements. During this session, we'll be sharing the video statements that we received and answering your questions and comments. Now, Maretsi will share with you our first video statement.
Thank you, Mary Carmen. The municipality of Hormiguero and its mayor, Mr. Pedro Garcia Figueroa, sent their video conference, which summarizes their proposals for these funds. We thank the mayor and their team for their participation in this public hearing, and go ahead with the video. No nation, no country can develop their economy if they don't have an electric grid that it's robust, reliable, efficient, like the water system too, the drinking water system. Those are two very important points I'm going to talk about in the 2 minutes I have. I'm going to talk about what do we have to do? What do we have to do with the electric grid? First, relocate the different paths of the lines that are in the mountains, take them through the main roads that have been built, because that was built so far back. It was done in the wild. So now we have to relocate the lines through the public lines that could be repaired easily. We have to clean cut the trees. That's something that has been forgotten. We have to put the substations up to date. In the case, the substation from Las Acacias that provides energy to Hormigueros, Cabo Rojo, Mayagüez, that substation, we have to make a new one. The breakers are always shutting down. Today's system, the distribution system, is It's connected. It has aluminum connectors, which is been it's been barely patched up. And during Maria, it was totally broken and had to be patched up to be give us energy. The state roads and municipal roads do not have lights. The it has it is a total blackout. Luma doesn't have the people to solve the system. And the people who knew the system were relocated in other agencies. The workers with experience, they are not working with Luma. They were relocated, as I mentioned before, in other agencies. The applications, the estimate applications for new connections for businesses, municipalities, and the public agencies, they take too long. Thank you very much for participating. Thanks to the mayor of Hormigueros. The video will be filed for this public hearing. Now we'll talk with the Secretary William Rodriguez to provide an answer to the proposal and the contribution by Hormigueros. Thank you, Mary Carmen. We thank the suggestion by Honorable Pedro Figueroa, Rodriguez Figueroa from the mayor from Hormiguero. One of the objectives of this plan is to achieve improvements of the system and promote and foster resilience. We acknowledge that municipalities need to benefit from a system that is renewed, that can supply the critical needs and the basic needs of their people. Under the cost distribution program for the reconstruction and recovery of the programs RG1, to facilitate the matching funds to reconstruct the electrical grid, we want to address improvement projects, large-scale projects that have a global project and a long-term project. Our goal with R2, ER2, is to support resilience of critical infrastructure in the island, like hospitals, schools, business, among others, to protect the life and the health of the most vulnerable people, and also to protect energy solutions for the distribution and located around the island. We thank you your comments about the draft for the optimization of the electric grid in Puerto Rico, and we will take in consideration during the revision program. We encourage the municipalities and agencies to give follow-up to this plan and to contribute with your valuable contributions. Thank you, Secretary. Now we'll go to read the first public comment. Mr. Rafael Ciberon Caraballo, resident of Sabana Grande, sent the following comment through an email. It must be very important to consider to put underground most of the lines in the island is the best way to protect the electric grid in Puerto Rico and to update the centrals that are obsolete. We request the Subsecretary Mararcy Diaz to please respond to this comment. Of course, Mary Carmen, housing will be evaluating projects to be allocated under these funds. Projects that propose an improvement to the electric grid, such as a project for an underground system to provide resilience to the system that could be eligible for these funds, while the final plan includes the final activity. We are really paying attention to the need of the different communities to put the lines underground to make them more resilient. And one of an essential plan for our action plan is the development of a more resilient plan, creating thus a less vulnerable system to natural disasters. We thank the recommendation, Mr. Ciberon Caraballo, in response to our plan for the electric grid in Puerto Rico. We received the following request from Javier Ruar Jovet, resident for the municipality of San Juan and representative of Solar Energy Storage Association of Puerto Rico, through an email. How can you be budgeting $1 billion of this budget that must be used in 6 years for FEMA projects that will take longer than 6 years? CESA requests that 100% of these funds, CDBG, must be addressed to the preview foreseen project, and they must not be used for matching funds as an alternative. If any of these funds are used as a matching fund, then CESA requests and encourages that it would be $0 budgeted in matching funds for projects that are outside of the period of 6 years for this budget. Shirley, be real. Can you answer to this comment? Thank you for your comment, Mr. Rua. The funds, the CBDG funds for improvement of the electric grid could be used to cover requirements, the matching funds, if they are used for an eligible activity under CDBG program, and that if it allows under the Federal Registry notification, it includes public assistance and other assistance administered by FEMA. The action plan includes distribution of cost distribution for recovery and reconstruction of the electric grid, ER1. This program fosters the matching of funds that could be used to maximize the funds to work in a holistic manner in the 6-year period has been established by HUD through the Federal Registry. However, housing will be working actively hand to hand with the federal agencies and other agencies who are part of the team, the technical coordination team, known as the TCT, to monitor the progress of the program and maximize the use of the funds. We thank the participation of the private sector in this process of the action plan. Thank you, Engineer Birria, for your response. The Director of Public Policy and Advocacy, Maritari Rodriguez Padilla Rodriguez, representing Hispanic Federation, sent their presentation and a video. Thank you, Hispanic Federation, for the recommendations with respect to the use of the funds and the action plan in your video conference. We will be watching it right now. Good afternoon. My name is Maria Teresa Padilla Rodriguez, the Director of Public Policy and Advocacy for the Hispanic Federation in Puerto Rico, and today I present a summary of our comments for the action plan for the optimization of the electric grid in Puerto Rico. More than 3,000 Puerto Ricans died after Hurricane Maria during the largest blackout in the history of Puerto Rico. Since then, we've been witness of how the electric grid has been going back and back, submerging our people in a race to survive. Energy is a basic need, it's a human right. Therefore, it is necessary for the government to comply with the responsibility to save lives, promoting fair access to the electric grid through the use of $1.9 billion for the optimization of the electric grid. For that, Hispanic Federation presents three main requests to the Department of Housing about the action plan. Number one, the action plan must assure access to solar energy that is resilient and efficient for the most vulnerable families and communities and low-income families pursuant to the General National Plan. Number two, the Housing Department must not accept automatically matching funds for the plan proposed by PREPA. As proposed by PREPA, it lacks concrete projects for energy generation to achieve to integrate 40% of renewable energy to the main grid for 2025. This pursuant to Law Act 17 of 2019 of the Public Energy Law of Puerto Rico. Therefore, the PREPA plan is not in compliance with the law. Since it is in non-compliance, the Department of Housing must condition any matching funds to a plan that must include concrete projects to integrate 40% of renewable energy in the island for 2025. Number three, the action plan must give priority to integrate solar systems with storage in the roofs of the houses in decentralized areas, and also protecting areas with high ecological value. We hope these comments are useful for the optimization of the electric grid in Puerto Rico.
Thank you very much to Hispanic Federation. Attorney Medici Diaz, I request that you provide an answer to this organization. Thank you for your comments, and we thank the active participation of Hispanic Federation, and for your recommendations about the action plan. The Housing Department is in agreement with that it is greatly important to improve the power grid to save lives and protect those who are most vulnerable. We also agreed that the renewable systems for the most vulnerable communities This can provide uh, ideal solution for the electric resiliency. With that end, we designed the RE2 program to foster the installation of microgrids in the remote communities and also vulnerable. Photovoltaic systems can be a great part of that solution. In terms of the FEMA matching funds under the 428 plan, the ER1 program is directed to facilitate the necessary matching for the restoration of the grid. However, such matching would be in a flexible way that would allow us to align with the projects that align mostly with the CDBG-DR and with an emphasis on low and medium resource communities and other projects that facilitate on a great scale the energy, renewable energy sources. And we also agree that to achieve such energy in a decentralized way, the future of the island, the action plan provides improvements at a larger scale than individual house solar plants in individual houses for the power grid in Puerto Rico. This is why the plan provides alternative for microgrids and mini grids in specific areas. We can include myriad of solutions like uh, power solar panels in different areas and roofs or brownfields and at an individual level, the housing department manages other programs directed towards integration of solar energy for housing units like the uh, community installations for the energetic resilience and water supply that we know as SURI, the CDBG-DR, and also the program of community installations of energy and resilient water of the CDBG-MEET program. We received an opponency from a resident of Naranjito, Mr. Ramon Figueroa. He submitted the following statement via email that reads as the following. Hello, we are a group of residents from the Mario Anones from Naranjito. We live in a sector that serves communal water line, and on that water line we have a system that it is already independent in terms of the electrical system. We manage the pumping in during daytime, and we have the capacity to serve 280 families. We have thought about that in such way we can also assume various sectors inside other municipal areas that also serve their neighbors with a communal waterway. So following this dynamic, we have the good to say that it is possible to have a system that it is not only for water but for energy that supplies the periphery that serves the Quebradillas, Barranquitas, Palomas, Comería, Doña Elena, Anones, Naranjito, Selva Arriba, Naranjita, and part of Corozal and other those neighborhoods. And a substation that used to belong to the previous prepa. And we could easily be linked with the intervention of the photovoltaic systems, batteries, and generators. And this opens the opportunity to create a small grid, which is a maximum aspiration to be able to control the electric system and drinking water. And so the system is available so you can see it. Thank you very much and good afternoon. Secretary, I request that you respond to the statement sent by this citizen. Thank you, Mari Carmen, and thanks you for Mr. Figueroa for your comment. We admire the commitment of your community to get drinking water to our residents. Housing recognizes the viability for these funds for community resiliency, like the one that you're mentioning. This could be fulfilled with projects that promote the development of renewable energy, such as the creation of microgrids that would address the necessities of such a disadvantaged sectors. Your comment will be taken into consideration, and the same will be filed and published on the CDBG-DR website. And I also take advantage to mention that there is a program under the CDBG Meet program for the electric resiliency and water for community plans. So I invite you to see the CDBG Meet website, which is accessible from the main CDBG-DR Puerto Rico website, and read about the program titled Program for Community Installations of Energy and Resilient Waters, which we will call SODI. And this program is about to start, which is a good opportunity for you to explore the information of the program that we will have available and that will be registered. So you can register to receive the notifications. Well, now we will do a brief break and we will return.
We are back to this second public hearing, sharing with the people who are watching us through the different networks and the radio signal 91.3 FM. We received a comment through the email from Edwin Rodriguez from the municipality of Toalta. It states, I don't hear, it is not clear and consistent about what helps are for us, the citizens who wish to have a transition to renewable energy. Many states are providing incentives like credits, since in that manner they can alleviate the burden of the electric grid. Arizona and Texas are an example. why they talk about PREPA and LUMA when they talk about funds, and we don't see the citizen as a key piece for the improvement of the system. To see the result of the resource management through these institutions, which shows very low performance. FEMA will help many families who suffered a great impact after the hurricanes, among others. What help or incentive or credits will we receive if we invest in renewable energy, and how soon and urgent will there be with respect to that? The funds that have been allocated by the government have been deviated or have been used illegally or have been poor performance. The story is there, and Puerto Rico is in the nation plan for 2025 to transform the conservation and improvement in the electric grid, and we are on time to look good before giving this challenge. The Department of Health show that we can do it well, and we can see the COVID vaccine as an example of what we can do. What assistance and when will the citizens see a direct help assistance for their investment in renewable energy? Haven't you wondered why so many companies are outside making um, celebrating the need that we have? When there is a lot of the problem, people take advantage of that. There is money that has been allocated for that, for electric grid, for we need more renewable energy for the home households. It will alleviate the electric grid. The next step is move to the action. Can you answer the question, please? Yes, Mary Carmen. Thank you for your comment, Mr. Rodriguez. We agree that distributed energy and renewable energy are key for the resilience of the electric grid in the long term. With respect to your recommendation for financial incentive, personal incentive, and for photovoltaic systems for residential and households, this is an area the state agency is exploring. We are in coordination with them, and we have noticed and filed your comment for the record. The Housing Department has different programs to provide solar installations for low-income families under the CDBG-DR program and under the MEET program. For the improvement of the system, we're developing projects for distribution in the communities, focusing on those communities in need. Thank you to the subsecretary. Now we'll present another video sent by the Legal Center for Resilience, known Resiliency Law Center of the University of Puerto Rico, represented by Counsel Ninochka Picard Perez, who is the Counsel for Climate Change of the organization. I'm Counsel Ninochka Pilar, in charge of the climate change of the Resiliency Law Center. In our presentation, the action plan for the electric grid proposed by the Department of Housing does not follow the federal public policy on climate change and resiliency and direct benefit for the resources. Since, number one, most of the funds, CDBG-DR, are allocated for projects that contribute for the energy reconstruction and centralized system, which is contrary to the public policy of Biden's public policy for climate change and Law 33 of 2018 that requires that Puerto Rico generates 20% of new renewable energy for 2022, and today we only generate 3%. For 2022, most projects do not benefit 70% of the most vulnerable population of the country, which does not comply with HUD's requirements. The CDBG-DR must not be used for funding match for the 10 years infrastructure plan of PREPA, since it focuses in an energy reconstruction that is centralized. Therefore, we request the Department of Housing does not accept automatic the matching funds of CDBG-DR for PREPA for the 10 years infrastructure plan, that it must include in the action plan only projects that, number one, comply with the public policy and the statutes on climate change, resiliency, and renewable energy, and two, benefits at least 70% of people of low income and better resources. And please accept how to move the country to a renewable energy country, which will provide Puerto Rico resiliency energy independence, and social justice and environmental justice. We thank your proposals and comments to the action plan, and it is registered for the record for this public hearing. And Shirley Be Real, can you answer to the video presentation from the Resiliency Law Center of the UPR? Of course. And thank you to Council Ninochka Picard for your participation representing the Resiliency Law Center of the University of Puerto Rico. The Federal Register 32866 shows allows the matching funds for projects that will be sponsored as obligated funds by FEMA. However, the Department of Housing in Puerto Rico will implement mechanisms necessary to make sure the funds of the program, the CDBG-DR program, are assigned to the projects or the part of the projects that comply with the national policy projects, including using at least 70% of the funds to benefit communities, low income and moderate income communities. The PREPA projects presented under the funds, on the FEMA funds, must go through the scrutiny and approval of the Energy Commission of Puerto Rico pursuant to the public policy, Puerto Rico public policy. The implementation of comprehensive improvements to the electric grid would allow the integration of decentralized centers like microgrids, contributing to an electric grid that will be more resilient. The matching of funds will provide for other funds, allowing for a better impact on the people and the government. It will also promote that the CDBG-DR funds that are not used for the matching funds will be used for proposals for to decentralize energy that is resilient and to reduce the carbon footprint. Thank you for your comments.
Alison Plume Diaz, resident of Tualta, sends us this question via email in representation of the Association, League Association of Puerto Rico. And such was submitted in English, but will be presented in Spanish for the benefit of the citizens. When the answers will be published to the public comments, it will be provided. Your comment will be provided in English and Spanish. Greetings. I would like to ask if there is some sort of assistance for the organization, non-profit organizations that have adopted a school. I participate in two non-profit organizations that perform meetings in a rescued school, and the energy is limited. I have been seeking for the opportunity to rescue another one to offer safe services for communities and entities such as search and for Puerto Rico and immediate response. Having said that, I ask if you agree with the Department of Agriculture of the U.S. or if there's a way to acquire subsidized energy for a rescue school and the organizations that participate in such schools. Secretary, please answer to this public comment. Of course, Mari Carmen, thank you very much. Alison Plume Diaz, for your participation in this public hearing. The non-profit organizations could be eligible as recipients of the CDBG-DR for the optimization of the power grid of Puerto Rico. The program of the viability and resiliency of the electric grid, or RE2, will assist projects focused and provide reliability and resilience in the electric system, power system. We encourage you to be up to date with the website from CDBG-DR. And right, for more information, right now we are in the development stage of the action plan, and once it is approved by HUD, all the processes for participation will be in the guidelines of each project. Once they are developed, this will be published in our website. Thank you very much. The citizen Joe Quihin, who indicate working in the private sector, sent us his presentation through email, in the English language. We will read it, a summary of his proposal translated into Spanish for the benefit of all. When the answers will be published, your comment and your entire comment will be provided, and the corresponding answer in English as in the Spanish language. We have been assessing the recovery effort for the hurricanes and the earthquakes, such as the plans for the grid reconstruction. We are sure that our solar products operated by the consumer could be of great value, allowing the residents who are affected by power failures to keep connected to rescuers and healthcare providers and family members and businesses. It seems to us that the grant language of HUD allows us to use funds to buy products or of solar energy that could help provide energy that is operated by the consumer in an immediate way to residents of low income or who are neglected, especially in the remote cities of Puerto Rico during the power failures. Shirley Vidal, could you answer to this comment? Of course, Mari Carmen, thank you very much for this, Mr. Joe, for his participation in the second public hearing for the action plan of the optimization of power grid of Puerto Rico. And as administrator of the CDB-DR Funds, housing assumes the task of these funds and as long as they comply with the bylaws and the guidelines, and this includes an evaluation of projects to be evaluated by CDBGDR to evaluate that they are within the allowed HUD reach, and the reasonability, the reason for the activities and products to be acquired will be evaluated. We are also will be up to date for any information that you would like to provide or supporting documentation that we'd like to present through your proposal. To such effect, we are pleased to inform that housing will be receiving and answering the comments until the 23rd of December of the current year. Well, now we will present the video presentation of the municipality of San Juan and its mayor, Mr. Miguel Romero Lugo. Go ahead. The lack of energy in the municipality of San Juan after Hurricane Maria caused serious hurdles that are economical, education, health, and other basic services, mainly in sectors with low and medium income populations. Our public policy of distributed energy, it's established in Act 17, was established for more viability for the electrical system, even after natural disaster, and programs for electric resilience present a great opportunity for the development of those distribution sources. The action plan as presented provides tools to achieve that purpose. Our municipality is a source of services not only for San Juan, but so that many Puerto Ricans in other municipalities can receive services. So we are on our way for the funds for microgrids for the continuous power for communities like Santurce, where hospitality services are provided, and vulnerable communities. So we would like a grid to strengthen Rio Piedras, to providing services to the University of Puerto Rico and the neighboring communities that deserve a security and a true economic growth. And in the Centro Médico of Rio Piedras, as part of an identification of a medical city where depend on the continuous electrical service before, during, and after catastrophic events. Even these facilities are in full working operation. We want to foster the development of a reliable service for such services and the neighboring communities, since it's the main medical center for our people from San Juan. Our agenda is very ambitious to leave behind the uncertainty and what we suffer throughout months after Hurricane Maria. These and other energetic projects will provide stability to San Juan as economic engine and of services to the great majority of Puerto Ricans. And to achieve it, there are some modifications that we recommend to the draft action plan draft that has been presented first in the section of cogeneration and microgrids in large projects to get a 75% minimum of derived energy from renewable sources plus storage, and limits severely the development of such projects due to lack of space in the metro area for the solar generation versus the demand of such systems. We understand that we must follow that guideline for microgrids that was approved by the Energy Bureau of Puerto Rico. Second, on the microgrid of Centro Médico, we ask requests for the greatest amount of funds possible for being the most important medical installation of Puerto Rico, and we also apply for a public-private alliance of the development of such program. Third, for in the guideline of the for-profit organizations or non-profit organization, we request some funds that vary from 25% of the project cost of the largest project size until 40% for the smaller size, and this will provide the stability and resiliency and cost for our business people who are there for the response after catastrophic events. And I thank the opportunity to be make our comments and recommendations for the housing development, who is the administrator of such fund. We count with the San Juan. It has to keep being the leader city and of the greater support to Puerto Rico, even in natural events. Thank you very much.
Secretary Rodriguez, can you provide an answer to the municipality of San Juan? We thank the participation and the interest of Honorable Miguel Romero Lugo, Mayor of the Municipality of San Juan. We acknowledge the importance of the services, medical services, financial services, and university services that San Juan offers to Puerto Rico. Currently, we're evaluating the requirement about the 75 minimum for generation with renewable energy for microgrids to align it better with the regulation of the microgrids in Puerto Rico established by the Energy Commission in Puerto Rico, or PREP for the English, the acronym. The Housing Department agrees with that the medical center has a unique and key role for the health of our people. It is also important for the resilience of Puerto Rico, given the stressing factors related to disasters such as hurricanes, earthquakes, and even the pandemics like COVID-19. To offer those important services, medical center must have a stable energy source and low-cost source. So we have identified the medical center as a critical system for resilience system under the ER2 program. Last, we took into consideration to make flexible the financial contribution from 25 to 40% for the ER2 to accommodate cogeneration projects for a very different scale. We know that there are different solutions will be important to address the needs of the remote communities in the mountains, as well as the urban areas like Santurce and Rio Piedras. Thank you for your comments, Mr. Mayor. Thank you very much, Secretary. And from Toalta, Mrs. Carmen Canales has posed the questions through the email, which reads as follows: being a tropical island, when will there be a renewal system for accessible for the citizens? Maretzi Diaz, can you provide a response to this? Of course, Mary Carmen. The Housing Department acknowledges the importance to develop activities that promote renewable energy. Under this action plan, projects to reduce the impact of climate change, such as the one that use renewable energy, may be sponsors. The reality of living in a tropical island which has a hurricane season annually, it is of dire need that those projects that are sponsored by these projects, that they optimize the system to make it resilient for future natural disasters. We thank you your participation, and we hope that you can keep updated with the development of this project and this plan. We also received a comment to the online form from Sheila Garin from the municipality of San Juan that states, PREPA and LUMA have been very inefficient in managing the complaints about the lightning posts as a consequence of Irma and Maria hurricanes. After 4 years, do you still have a plan, or do you plan to have or implement a strategy to work on these light posts that have been damaged that are about to fall in residential areas and urban areas as part of the optimization plan? The government has not stated for the public if LUMA will be responsible legally about the damages to residents when if any post falls in the houses or the households that may fall due to an earthquake or some other action. Will it be discussed in the action plan about the optimization of the electric grid in Puerto Rico? The response will be answered by Shirley Virriel. Can you please answer the question? Thank you very much, Mrs. Algarin, for your question. The improvement to the system contemplate in the pursuant to the Federal Registry for these funds include the repairing of the transmission lines and transmission distribution lines, which it is an eligible action under the action plan that could be included in the proposals that will be sponsored by these funds. Also, damages to the light post of the system must have been contemplated by FEMA in their damage assessment when they granted the funds. Thank you for your interest in the public hearing and on the funds, the CDBG funds. Thank you very much to all the citizens and entities that have participated in this session, and to the team of the Department of Housing for responding to the comments, concerns, and proposals. We'll go to a pause, and then we'll continue addressing your comments and your presentation.
And we are back to the public hearing, live public hearing of the CDB-DR Funds for the optimization of the electrical grid. We will start with the video presentation of the Enlace Corporation of the Caño Martín Peña, presented by its Executive Director, Mario Muñez Mercado. Go ahead. Hello to all. I'm the Executive Director of Calle Mantipeña. Go before you to mention the need of the CDB-DR funds. Our communities keep on living in critical conditions after Hurricane Maria that affects us substantially. We are in the 10% social vulnerability in Puerto Rico. 55% of our neighbors live on the poverty line, and in many sectors, 65% of the residents report that they don't have the electric power system at least once a month, and this is for us quality of life indicator, the power system. We have an implemented system under the trust of the and the consumers are implementing our master plan for infrastructure. We have done agreements with our government agencies to coordinate and revitalize the improvement programs in the district, like for example the agreement with prepa to revitalize our projects, and we strongly believe that the plan for must prioritize the access to the funds to the most vulnerable communities and to those effects. And lastly, we'll be requesting the CDBG-DR funds for three critical projects, including the integral master plan for the infrastructure that will improve significantly the economic opportunities and lifestyle of our communities. And the projects are the regularization of the power lines of 115 kilowatts and to increase the capacity of distribution of our 4 kV to 13 kV. And this implementation of solar integration to the residents. And the details of these projects will be provided in our written presentation. As I imagine Puerto Rico resilient, sustainable, and ready to confront the next Hurricane Maria. This program is designed to achieve that vision. It is needed to revitalize the Caño Mantipeña communities and other communities like ours, so all Puerto Rico. Let's act today to have a more resilient present and a more prosperous future. Subsecretary Maritzi Diaz, we think that you will be able to answer to this video presentation of Grupo Enlace. Thank you very much, Mr. Nunez, for your presentation, participation in this public hearing of the Caño Enlace Martin Peña organization. And like you very well highlight the need to it must be a priority to address the needs of the vulnerable communities, and the energy plan must fulfill the guidelines in the 86 FR Plan 32681. And one of these objectives is that the project for the implementation of the electrical system of Puerto Rico benefit at least 70% and 70% to communities of low or moderate incomes, or LMI, the communities of the Caño Martin Peña, and they are in effect considered as LMI, for which energy improvement projects that benefit these communities can be considered eligible under the CDB-DR Funds program. In terms of the specific programs that you mentioned in the video presentation, once the period for to receive proposals, such projects can be submitted to be evaluated on the housing department under the criteria established in the action plan and the guidelines of the program once they are approved. Also, your comments take part of the record, and we will keep them in mind in the future for a variety of initiatives, including the efforts of having underground power lines. So, and the solar project that your group mentions could be a candidate for microgrid implementation. And the program housing development counts with solar programs for the individual housing, like the program for water resilience, water and energy resiliency program survey, and the CBG program, and the other resilient drinking water and the CDBG MIT program. To obtain more information the program, you can access the CDBG-DR website from the Housing Development, www.cdbg-dr.pr.gov. Thank you very much, Attorney Diaz, for your answer. And let's take advantage of this phase, the questions phase, to answer some questions that we received during the meetings with entities, citizens, municipalities, and agencies during the elaboration of the action plan. Very frequent question that we received during our meetings with the entities is the following: what is the goal or main objective of the CDBG-DR program for the optimization of the electrical system? Now I request Secretary William Rodriguez to answer this question that is very frequent. Thank you, Mari Carmen. The goal of the CBGDR program is to perform improvements to the electrical system of Puerto Rico to achieve the optimization of the resiliency, reliability, efficiency, and sustainability of the system, and to have the financial viability of each system in the long term. Thank you, Secretary. Another question that we frequently received is the following: and what does the microgrids and mini grids consist, and what is the difference between both, among both? Now, engineer Mediet can provide clarification for the benefit of the public that is listening to us and also sees us. Of course, the microgrids and mini grids are small grids or circuits that are capable of generating, storing, and distributing electric energy, and they can work connected to the main power grid or in an separate way. The difference between a mini and a microgrid is that the capacity, the generation capacity of a mini grid, microgrid, excuse me, is much less. Thank you very much. Now we'll present the video presentation sent by Honorable Rafael Sorillo Ruiz, Mayor of the Municipality of Yabucoa. Go ahead with the video.
Greetings. It is Rafael Sorillo Ruiz, Mayor of the Municipality of Ayabucoa. Our municipality is on the southeastern part of Puerto Rico. Southeastern part is the one that received the first impact from hurricanes. Our town lived the experience of the devastation of Maria. Its entrance went through its official entrance was through the municipality of Yabucoa, living in its path, devastation, total devastation in our municipality. One of the areas that was most affected and most critical was the electric grid, of course. There were communities in our town that were for more than a year without receiving energy. And it was dramatic because we lost many lives in our town because they lived in these conditions that we had to live. That's why it is very important that when we talk about the repairing and recovery of the system, our town must be taken into consideration based on the experiences that we lived. We demand that those who have the power to make this transformation possible of the electric grid to consider the underground system in our town, particularly in those areas, critical areas such as the urban areas where the business is, the hospital, the elderly centers, the retirement condos. So if we have to face a situation like the one we faced before, that in the least time possible we can restore our service in these very critical areas, so we don't have to leave what we already lived during Maria, to lose lives due to living in under these conditions. So we recommend and I suggest that to contemplate the underground projects for the electric grid in the urban areas of our town. Thank you very much, the mayor from Bayucoa. Secretary Rodriguez, can you answer this video presentation? Of course, we thank the interest and the participation of Honorable Rafael Sorillo Ruiz, Mayor of the Municipality of Yaucoa, in this second hearing on the action plan for the energy. We acknowledge the great impact that Maria had in Yabucoa and the importance of reconstruct in a resilient manner that it's fair and dignified for the community. These underground projects could be an important part of the strategy for the reconstruction of the distribution. We are committed to promote these efforts together with PREPA and also the Recovery and Reconstruction and Resilience Office, Core 3, in the efforts to reconstruction, transmission, and distribution under FEMA 428. Also, the emphasis in critical charges is a priority, which includes hospital, commerce, businesses, first need articles, fires, and for the distribution of fuel, among other goals. Year 2, our goal is to support the resiliency of these critical areas to protect lives, health, for the most vulnerable people. Communities like Yabucoa that were without energy for a very extended period are main candidates to address their critical infrastructure given under catastrophic events. Thank you, Secretary, and to the engineer and the Subsecretary for participating in this public hearing. Remember, all the comments received will be published in our website, for the CDBG-DR website. Mr. Secretary, can you give us a last message? After this public hearing, I only have to thank the participation of all of you, Maretzi, Mary Carmen, and Shirley, and of course all of those who collaborate, sending your presentation, comments, and questions. We would have loved to share all of them live, but we don't have time for it. We didn't have time. But your questions will be answered, and those answers will be posted in our internet page, the CBDG-DR page.